if we have the time, we'll go into the Prism. I'll show you how to use the Gantt for the scheduling aspects. But the focus is the concepts, not the tool. So we have the 2-day training for the Prism that's completely different to get hands-on experience. In this 1-hour session, I try to cover the concepts, which are how the work plans within the Prism are built on, right? So first we have the concept in order to build a tool. This is the concept that was conceived 30 years ago, I guess. And then ever since we went through several tools, right now Prism is one of them, and still the concepts are the same. And with regards to the work plan, probably you heard a lot last 2 days, and today our focus is mostly the scheduling part. I try to share my experience as much as I can, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. As I said, one of my many years, I assisted several project managers, 7 to 8 project managers over the 10-year span. So I kind of know most of the things, what they do. And for the past 4 or 5 years, 4 years, I've been teaching Prism. With regards to the Prism, I should be able to answer most of the questions you may have. If you have a question that I couldn't answer, you're going to email it to us, and then we'll respond to you in a day or two. All right. So work plan has 3 major elements. I guess 2 major elements. Scope, I think one of you already said scope, time, and money, right? Those 3 major elements. So out of those, our discussion is predominantly focusing on the schedule part. So what happens before you develop the scope, schedule, those things, scope, schedule, budget, what happens before that? Typically, asset management happens at the time. How the projects are initiated, we'll go over a brief overview of that. So most of the projects are conceived by the Transportation Planning Division or the shop program advisors, the STIP advisors. They collaborate with the regional transportation planning agencies or the local MPOs. So they are the ones who initiates the projects from the very, very beginning, before something becomes a project to be considered. And then how do they do it? These are the several documents that they generate that trigger ideas that will become projects at some point in the future. So the common documents are Regional Transportation Planning Agency documents, or inter-regional transportation improvement program projects. And then many of us are familiar with traffic investigations as well as the bridge maintenance reports. These are the triggers that allow us to consider something as a project. This is where we do the frequent yearly or bridge inspections that trigger the bridges that has to be prioritized for the to be considered as a project. Same as traffic investigations. Simple ones, for example, if you think of your community, let's say if there's a traffic sign is required, you put a request through, if it's a city or county or whoever is the right of way. That is a simple project. That's how the traffic sign project is initiated. But if it's a city or county, they would consider a bigger scale, right? So they would look at an intersection. If it's an unsignalized intersection, they would look at how we could make this a signalized intersection. So they would initiate a project. They would initiate a project that, okay, how to convert an unsignalized intersection into signalized intersection. And if it's some bigger project, adding new lanes and those things are typically done by MPOs and those who initiate. I think everything comes to the Caltrans, and if it's within the Caltrans right away, we collaborate with these agencies to initiate these projects. So our process is first, it has to go through the shop or STIP, one of those program advisors that collaborates with the advanced planning group. So once the need is identified in the planning documents, it goes through the shop or STIP program advisors, and then they will work with our asset management group, prioritize the projects that needs to be programmed, and then they will goes to AMS Advantage. We call CJ Advantage now. So as a project manager or someone who is assisting the project manager, you would submit a request to accounting saying that, hey, this scope is going to be a program and to be a project. So at the time you would submit, we're going to do an exercise on that one. So how to initiate a project. So at that point, you're not initiating a project, but it's like just an idea that would become a project after going through advanced planning, and then they considered all the scope, schedule, and money, and then that would be programmed as a SHOP or STIP project. These are the various steps. I'm not going to go through step by step, but these are the various steps. Once you submit your request to the accounting, it goes through overnight process into the PRISM under the needs and ideas. And then after that, asset management considers, and then they'll convert the needs and ideas into a project. And then as a advanced planning group, or in some districts, PMs also take active role from the bid stage. So during the K phase, you would see the project in the PRISM. So this is just a break for me. So the last few slides, I have it as a backstory or asset management, because I want you to kind of think the project doesn't show up directly into the PRISM. There is a lot of work that happens from the local agencies, as well as the SHOP or STIP program advisors, advanced planning group, before it shows up as in the K phase of the PRISM. So one major difference you may already know, the difference between SHOP and STIP. SHOP is a State Highway Operations Protections Program. It means what it states. So you're not going to add any new lanes. You're going to protect what is already there. So that means most of the rehab projects, anything that doesn't add more cars to the existing roadways falls into the SHOP category, SHOP funding category. So SHOP, most of the projects across the state these days would fall into the SHOP category. However, some districts have projects that are heavy on the STIP, because most of the STIP are, as we said, State Transportation Improvement Program. That means you're adding a lane. That means you're adding more cars to the existing highway. That predominantly local MPOs take the lead on them. However, for example, North region or some other regions where they don't have a local transportation measures, those are called non-self-help counties. You might have more STIP projects. For example, North region, District 1, 2, 3, they might have more, not more, you might have STIP projects. But if you look at the District 4, most of the STIP are going to be undertaken by the local MPOs. It's not uniform across, but I'm just saying that's a typical scenario. All right, work plan. This one, as I said, this is not our focus, but as work plan has two major elements. One is schedule, another one is budget. So how work plan is developed? During the bid process, the work plan is developed. During the bid process, you collaborate with all the functional units who are going to be involved, and develop a schedule, develop the budget needs. That is our work plan. And then we try to adhere to the timelines and the budget needs that were developed during the bid phase throughout the next 4 or 5 years of the project delivery. So what your work plan should have: tasks and milestones. And why do we have to create the work plans? So everything we do has to be sponsored by CTC, which is California Transportation Commission, and most of the highway projects are sponsored by CTC. And I think last 4 years or 5 years, we have the broadband projects. Those are the sponsors, or the CDT, California Department of Technology. So we are accountable for them to show how we are spending the money, what is the scope, what we are delivering, whether we are adhering to the timelines. So those are the sponsoring agencies. We have the responsibility to show them with all the transparency we could, and then records, and making sure that those projects are delivered. So that's why we have the work plans. And the work breakdown structure, we're going to talk about this a little bit more as we go down. Work breakdown structure plays a major important role. What it means, simply, let's say if you have a project, how are we going to deliver that? So that is the work breakdown structure. How are we going to deliver? You have to break a project into several pieces, and that is tasks and milestones. Once you break the project into tasks and milestones, you would make the progress in your project, and then you would report once you achieve each milestone as you go along. So work breakdown structure, we're going to go in detail. As we said, our project is building a road, a bridge, or a culvert, whatever that is, and we are breaking that work into several segments. That is our work breakdown structure in general. And then our work plan should have who is going to do that. Typically, who is going to do that? We're going to name it. If it's a design function, all the functional unit managers, along with the project manager, we're all responsible for developing the work plan. And then how? So once you know that you want to do a project, which is building a bridge or design bridge or culvert or TMS element, whatever the scope of the project is, you break the work into, let's say, 100 different pieces. You have to connect them, which sequence you're going to follow. That's what the network diagram refers to. And when. So once you develop this work plan during the PID phase, how often you revise it? Before you open new phase. For example, you open phase 0, you make sure that your schedule is good, your budget is good, so that you're able to deliver the project within the time, within the money that was allocated. So after completion of the phase 0, and then you would revise it on phase 1 again. Every time, at the least, anytime there is a change, and before you open the phase, you would like to revisit the schedule and budget needs for the project. Why not scope? Scope, that is something that progresses along with as you work on the project. You might add some elements to your scope. Sometimes you might delete some elements to the scope. One example I could think of is, for example, if you have a 50 ADA curb ramps on a project at the beginning of the project. As you're working through the project, you would find 10 ADA ramps that require right-of-way from the right-of-way, and then you're not sure whether you're going to get it or not. At that point, as a PM, you have two options: whether to delete the scope, which is those 10 problematic ADA curb ramps, or you can keep them and then try to pursue acquiring those right-of-way for those 10 ADA curb ramps. So those are some of the elements as you make the progress on your project. As a PM, you make those decisions. All right. So work plan elements, 3 major components that are important in the work plan is, one is this scope summary table. This is a table, you guys seen this table before? Okay, so this is one of the important table. It just gives you a glimpse of what the project is at a high level. So it tells you, most important, which district is it in, county, route, post miles. So you know what the county is, what the route is, post mile, from what are the limits of that project is. And then it also tells you the program code, because most of the projects would fall into certain type of program code. That's how the funding works. So as a PM, it's one of your responsibility to make sure, based on the scope, this is the right program code for this project or not. For example, 010, I think the common ones most of you might have familiar with is storm damage projects. Typically, whenever there is a season, you program more storm damage projects. Typically, they fall under the program code 130 or 131. So for example, for the safety, I think 010. For the bridges, 110. So there's an accounting bulletin that shows you don't have to remember anything, but there is a different program codes. As you spend time in project management, you would know those codes. And it's one of your responsibility to make sure your project scope aligns with the program codes. And another important element in this one is the environmental documents. As we all know, we have 2 different agencies, NEPA and CEQA. One is the national, one is the California. So they do have different environmental requirements for every project we do. So who makes the determination? Typically, environmental generalist. He makes the determination what kind of environmental document you have to produce during the project progression. So if your project has a simple grind and pay project, it doesn't encroach into undisturbed soil areas, then those are predominantly falls into a categorical exemption for NEPA as well as for CEQA. So those are straightforward projects. But if you have adding a new lane, or if you're adding new guardrails, or if you're adding I was thinking about the CHP that ramps, pockets they create for pull-out areas. So if anytime you're going into the undisturbed soil areas, it triggers a higher level environmental document requirements. So that determination typically is made by the environmental generalist in collaboration with the biologist and all the sub-functional units that reports to the general environmentalist. So he collaborates with biologists as well as the tribal agency and archaeology and many of those functions and make the determination what kind of environmental document is required. As a PM, it's important for you to know what kind of environmental document you would be having because that have a greater impact on your project schedule. So 3 major elements: county route, post mile, and the scope of the project definitely, and then program code, and then type of environmental document. As a PM, you want to be to somewhat aware of them. This is the crux of our presentation today. So the schedule. So these are the, if you're looking at any PID document, these are all the milestones you're going to have in the PID document. How are they going to develop these milestones? Each project is unique, we want to say, even though we still build the roads and bridges. This is the timeline you develop along with your team. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll go over a few things. Even though each project is unique, it does have some common narratives that we could use how to come up with the schedule for the project. These are the various milestones. I'll go over them in the next few slides. Another important element for the project manager is the budget table. This is probably, you have seen it, I guess, because I want to focus in this presentation only on the time, which is the project schedule. But anyhow, this one, budget is also predominantly a bigger factor for the PM to manage. So here you have the PID support, PSND right of way, and then 4 support components, and then 2 capital components. As a PM, you are held responsible for accurately estimating the top 4 support components. The lower 2, typically these come from the PE. He used the 11-page estimate to develop the construction capital, and then right-of-way capital comes from the right-of-way folks. But as a PM, you would be held responsible to some extent to ensure accuracy of the support component budget estimates. So how do you develop them? Typically, you solicit the information for the from the functional units. They'll give you the hours required for them to complete the scope of the work. You'll put it together, and then you develop the budgets for these 4 support components. So as a PM, when you sign off on the PID documents, you're saying that I can deliver this project with this timeline with the money that is shown here. If you want to deviate from this one, you want to check the accuracy before you sign off on the PID document. Once you sign off on the PID document, you have to jump through several hoops. As you heard last 2 days, you have to, if you want to change the timeline, you have to do the time extensions. If you have to do the budget changes, you have to do the G12s, supplemental fund, PCRs, supplemental funds, G12s, PCRs, supplemental funds request, in that order. For the future phases, you do the PCRs. For the current phases, you have G12 and supplemental funds. Those are the only 2 options you would have. All right. Yeah, capital components, as we said, your PE takes the lead, and he will be held accountable, more or less. But the support components, it's not that straightforward. That's why as a PM, you want to make sure those numbers that you could live with for the rest of the 4 years in delivering the project. This is the work plan status report that is used across all the districts. Most PMs use, this is a very good communication tool. It tells you about the milestones, irrespective of where you are in the organization. You don't have to go to the PM to see what's the status of the project. You can just go to the PRISM, or you can go to, every district has developed robust reporting tools. You can go to those reporting tools and then find a project status, where the project is. Is it a PID is done, or a PSND is done, or is it in construction? Which phase the project is in, how much money they spent, and all those details are in this work plan status reports. So here, I think this color code is very self-explanatory. The green ones are the ones you are 100% complete, it turns green, and then if it's not complete, then it's going to show as a late. As a PM, you want to update the date, or you would take appropriate action. So the point here for this slide is, I want you to know there's a work plan status report that tells you about the status of the project. Irrespective of where you're in the organization, you should be able to look at where the project is, how much money is spent, and all of those details. So I want you to think, when is the work plan developed and updated? This is the when it's developed during the PID process. We develop the work plan during the PID process, as we talked several times. And who is involved? Everyone participates in the from the advanced planning group to all the functional units will be involved in developing the work plan. So when you can update the work plan, it is a living document. As you make the progress on your project, you would update the schedule, you would update the budget needs, you would update the scope. So there is no, once you develop the PID document, you don't have to stick with it. As we said, depending on, sometimes as you, let's say you're in the PID process, there is a request from the CTR or KM that, hey, you're doing this project, we want to you to add some of the scope, which is, let's say, area ramps. I'm using the same example again and again, but so let's say if we want to add area, city made a request to you, add some area ramps, or city requested you to add traffic signs in some of the locations. So as a PM, it's your responsibility to accommodate their needs and see if you can squeeze that additional scope into your project. And then that triggers into the modification of the work plan. So work plan, even though we submit it to CTC, SHOP, we developed the SHOP book, which is a 4-year cycle. SHOP is a 4-year cycle. That is, we're telling the CTC, saying that, hey, we're going to deliver these projects with this money, with this timeline. It doesn't mean we have to stick with it. We have the change management process in the place that allows you to modify the work plan as you make the progress in your project. Yeah, whenever there's a change in scope and schedule. I think we already said this one, when to update the work plan. Before you open each phase, for example, the CTC, the way they give us the money is we develop the PID documents, which is our work plan, and then we submit it to the SHOP list, and it goes there. And then they let us open, you submit appropriate documents to open the phase 0. They'll give you the money for phase 0, and then you spend all the money, and then you completed the project report, and then you submit the additional documents for requesting phase 1 and phase 2. And then CTC looks at your request for phase 1 and 2, and then they'll give you the money for phase 1 and 2. Once you complete the phase 1, and then you submit request for funds again for phase 3 and 4, and then they'll give you money for phase 3 and 4. So they won't give, the allocation happens, but the funding comes phase by phase. In terms of the, using the right words, programming happens during the PID phase. Once you complete the PID, you can program the entire project, but the allocation from the CTC comes phase by phase. All right, I think that's all about the work plan major elements. Let's dive into the project. What is the project? A project shouldn't be a cyclic process. For example, our maintenance, they do routine work. Or another example is like in a factory, the product, let's say iPhones. Producing iPhones is not a project, but designing an iPhone is a project. So a project should have a any temporary endeavor with a definite beginning and end. That's why all our projects begins with milestone 00 and ends with milestone 900. I think I have this one here. Most of us might have seen the transition from BEAS to ASTO pre-construction. We used to have BEAS for the cost estimate, and then we transitioned to ASTOWare. So that's an example of IT project. All right. So before you start a project, I think you need to know how you can break the work into different pieces. That is the work breakdown structure, as we talked. In Caltrans, we have different levels, level 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those are different levels of the work plans we have. As a project manager, you can make the decision which work plan you want to use. So at a minimum, you have to use the level 5 work plan template. If you, as a PM, if you make the decision to go to level 6 or level 7, it's your choice. You can do that. At this point, you probably have no idea what's level 5, 6, 7, 8. If you are, that's fine, but we'll go over in the next few slides. All right, I want you to write a generic project statement, and then break that into maybe write a work breakdown structure of that project. The examples I would say, a non-Caltrans project, simply like making a coffee or making a dinner. Just write a one-liner and then break that into 10 pieces, I guess, how you would get there, okay? Or you can write it on the piece of paper, or you can write it. So it gives me time to Relax. Yeah, please. I'm going to go one person from each table. If we all speak, I don't think there's going to be enough time. From that table, the last table, just say your name and then about the project. And what you need to tell is like a yeah, we can start from any table. It's fine. Yeah. Just what is your project and how many tasks you have, how many pieces you could break that project into.
I guess I'm not really understanding the question.
Okay. Let's say the project is making a dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Your project is making a dinner. Break that into how would you get there? Dinner.
Okay. So you need to buy groceries.
Yes.
Bring them home. Prepare them. Yeah, clean them, prepare them, cook the meal.
Yeah. Let's say 6 to 7 different
Right.
tasks you have.
Okay.
Right? And then you have to sequence them, right? Let's say if you write all of them, first thing you need to do is go to the groceries and then you arrange them in that order. So
Okay.
anyhow, this is just a self-reflection.
Okay.
Okay, next table. All right. If you guys don't speak, I'm just going to come here. All right. Nick.
All right, I'm going to be talking about taking a shower. So
Okay.
turn on the water, get it to your ideal temperature. Probably take off your clothes and hop in.
Just 2 tasks. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. All right, from this group. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so my project is cleaning the house. So we'll need to wash the dishes, wash the laundry, clean the floors, clean restrooms, and I put remove or return miscellaneous items to their appropriate spots. And then it goes further into that, right?
Thank you. All right, I guess those are around 10 different tasks, or I don't know. I didn't count it. I'm just throwing a number there. Yeah. All right. We go with this. Who wants to volunteer?
Good morning. Mine's building a house. So you have to pick a location, hire a crew, lay a foundation, buy the materials, start the structure. You gotta start that, and then you got to get electricians and get electrical starting on it and build it from the foundation up.
Yeah. Those are probably like right now we stated probably 15 to 20, but if you put it all together, maybe 100 200 different things, you do it in a different sequence. Next step.
I picked a really hard one. Planning a vacation. So some of the, unless you're traveling by yourself, if you're traveling by yourself, yeah, a lot of these things can be simplified. But some of the ones that some of the tasks that I broken up, it was contacting possible stakeholders, aka family or friends. And if you guys have ever traveled with family, you guys know how many risks there are involved with that, and a lot of disagreements. Then is selecting the duration, managing the schedules of everyone, especially when they grow up. When it's all kids, it's easy and dandy. When you have all adults that everybody's working and everybody's like, woo, it's complicated. Then selecting the location, another topic of discussion, because nobody agrees on where they want to go. And there's so many people that say, I don't have an idea where I want to go. And then people provide suggestions and they're like, I don't want to go there. Okay, provide a suggestion. They're like, I don't know. Anyways, then setting up the budget, who's going to make the reservations, prepping for the trip, thinking of possible delays, aka risks that could happen. Maybe you could get a flat tire. Maybe there's a delay on the plane. Once you're already there, of course, making the trip, enjoying the trip, and then packing and coming back to reality, which is probably the hardest.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of things. I didn't count, but it's very stressful. All right, you guys.
So my project is giving my dog Bella a bath, well, a shower. The first thing would be to gather all dog bathing supplies, and then I would put the supplies outside next to the hose. I would put Bella on a leash, and then I would take Bella outside near the hose, would turn on the hose. I would lather soap on Bella, rinse the soap off of her, dry her, brush her, and then I would bring all the supplies back inside.
Yeah, thank you. You can see each of us take at least 5 to 6 minutes of breaking a project into different tasks, because it's just one person, no one has to agree. But if you're working with, let's say, 50 people, all 50 people have to agree that these are the tasks we want to do. These are the sequence we want to have it. So I just want you to think of that. But for us, Caltrans, it's much simpler, because all these things are thought out. They said, this is how we want to do. We don't want to leave any room how a project is broken down into, for the most part. Right. Work breakdown structures, typically there are two different conceptually there are two different types. One is the deliverable-based work breakdown structure. The other one is phase-based work breakdown structure. Deliverable-based is predominantly used for the reports and then a smaller scale projects. And then phase-based is for the larger projects. At Caltrans, we not predominantly, our delivery system is based on the phase-based work breakdown structure. So that means you break the project into several phases, and then you deliver each phase by, you manage each phase by phase as you make the progression on your project. So these are the different levels. If at the top you have one thing as a project, and the project is broken down into 2 different tasks, and then again it's broken down into, each task is broken down into 2 subtasks. So the one thing I want you to notice, no task hangs by itself. It has to be connected to the upper level task. So this is a broad perspective of how the work breakdown structure should be done. Everything has to be connected to the upper level task before, if you break a task into lower level activities. So this is a generic project life cycle. Most of the projects would fall into this category if they are following a phase-based work breakdown structure. You have the initiation stage, planning stage, execution, and control and closeout. If you look at, if you're seeing it on this side, you can see this is the IT project. They do research, discovery, design, and enforcement, and sprint 1, whatever. So the point is, it has several phases, and all these phases have to happen in a sequential order. And then as a project manager, you get to see how to connect these tasks with each other. So at this point, I want you to see, kind of let it sink in. Probably many of you know a project has different phases. It has at a minimum, these 4 phases: initiation, planning, execution, and control, and closeout. Each organization defines those phases differently with minor modifications, but at the high level, conceptual wise, these are the phase-based work breakdown structure works. Most of the infrastructure projects, that's what we do. First thing that happens is scoping and surveying. We look at the project, what's the needs. This more or less falls into our P document phase. Scoping and surveying. The next one is preliminary design, which is more or less equivalent to our PAED phase. And then detailed design, which is more or less equivalent to our PS&D phase. And then after that, you AAA the project. AAA is advertise, award, and approve. So that's what the procurement process is. So the AAA process, you would hear the word AAA so often, is as I said, advertise, award, and approve. We're going to talk detail about those 3 things as we go in the future slides. So once you procure the contract and to work on your project, and he's going to build the project, whether it's a wall, retaining wall, or a bridge, or roadway, whatever it is, that is the construction. And then once it's completely, the physical structure is constructed, it will be handed back to the maintenance. So it's a cycle that typically uniform across all the infrastructure projects. And at our organization, these are the steps we follow. So first we do the PID, which is we call it a K phase, and then we do the PAED, we call it as a 0 phase, and PS&D, right-of-way support, and capital. So those 3 phases begin at the same time. Phase 1, 2, and 9. PS&D refers to phase 1, right-of-way support refers to phase 2, right-of-way capital refers to phase 9. And the last 2 phases are construction support and construction capital. Phase 3 refers to construction support. Phase 4 refers to construction capital. This is a snapshot from PRISM Gantt. So if you're looking at any project in a PRISM, at least when you're setting up the project, if it doesn't look in this sequence, that means project schedule is off. You don't have to go in detail into all the, probably you might have 100 different tasks, but you can look at the phase level summary Gantt. By looking at it, if it doesn't follow this sequence, that means the project schedule is off. Once the project has progressed into phase 1 or phase 3, it might not see this because of our improper charging practices. To say it another way, someone might have charged even though the phase is complete. We're going to go a little bit on that. Yeah.
I do want to mention really quickly, this technically applies to mostly, like you said, to shop projects. There is circumstances where it might not look like this. Like, for example, the Clean California projects did not go, they had PS&E and PAED at the same time. So you would have to modify the logic for that. But just generally for this, is for most projects, I feel like 95% of the projects we work for, there's some instances when it might look different. So just considering, you just have to know what you're working with. That's my point.
Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly correct. That does happen, but this is the typical scenario. What we're seeing here, there are some exceptions. Phase 0 and 1 could happen simultaneously depending on the project. I think one example he gave is Clean California. And not only that, there are some projects could fall into that category, but at the time, I think you have to request for an exception and there's a process. But this is the typical scenario, but it doesn't mean it has to be applied uniformly across in every project you come through. There might be exceptions where PAED and PS&D that go in parallel. Thank you. All right. So if you're in the PRISM, that calendar allows you to see, set up the by year, by week, along those timelines. I'm not going to touch on those. Yeah. The point I want to make is once you complete the PID document, which is K phase, and then you program the project, as we said a minute ago, you submit all the required documents to CTC. Hey, I have my PID document ready. I want to open phase 0. And then you open the phase 0. Once you complete the phase 0, you would submit again another set of documents to CTC. They'll for the funding for PS&D, right-of-way support, and right-of-way capital. So those 3 phases open at the same time. And once you complete the PS&D, that is milestone 500. We'll talk a little bit in one more second. And then once you complete the milestone 500, that is construction contract approval, which contractor has the project in his hand to build the project. And then construction support and construction capital kicks in. Construction support is the people who administer the contract, typically Caltrans staff. We might have one or two consultants, but mostly Caltrans staff, those who work in the field. That is the construction support. Construction capital is the money we spend it, we give it to the contractor to build the physical structure. So at this point, what I want you to kind of take away is we follow this sequence: K, PAD, PSND, rate of support, rate of capital, and once PSND is done, construction support and construction capital. If your project doesn't look like this, that means there's something off. Exception to a few projects, they might have a PAD, PSND in parallel. At the beginning of the project, at least it should look like this. But as people charge, as we know, we're not perfect. Some people might charge even though the phase is completed. Your milestone shows it's done today, but there might be some people charging a month down the road. That throws off these bars for the ongoing projects. All right, the work breakdown structure, as we talked, every lower level has to be connected to the higher level. How ours at Caltrans, at the top, we have the department. So CTC giving us the money, hey, build a California infrastructure. That's what our level 0 is, more or less. And the money is broken down to different districts. That is our level 1. And then money is again broken down into different programs. That is our level 2. And then our level 3 product is the actual, our level 3 product is the projects. At level 3, you can see where the money is going to, which project the money is going to. So at level 3, as we said, our product is bridges, culverts, TMS elements. These are the products we see at the level 3. This is information from the asset management. We have 50,000 miles. But here, I want you to understand at level 3, our product is, these are the major transportation elements. All right, if we dig down to the level 4, what is our product? Our product is PID document. PID document for K phase and project report for the 0 phase. At level 4, the PSND product is, or the phase 1 product is the plans and spec. At level 4, this is the product. And at the level 4, the phase 3 construction inspection reports. People who work in the field, they will develop the daily diaries along with other reports they generate. And phase 4, which is the level 4 deliverable, where you have the contractor build all of these structures based on the plan spec. All right, this is the full picture of the same information. I'm probably you're seeing the same information again and again in different forms. At level 0, at the high level department, and then it's broken down into level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you have a clear idea what's a 0, what's a 1, what's 2, what's 3, and what's 4. As we said, 0 is the highest level, the department, the money CT is giving the final product at level 0 is the department. At level 1 is different districts. At level 2, different programs. At level 3, the projects. At level 4 is the phases. So as we said here in this slide, you would see K0, 1, 2, 3. So these are the support components only highlighted. The capital components are not shown on this slide. So each support component is broken down into several tasks, which is called level 5 tasks. At level 5, you can see K phase is broken down into 2 tasks. Phase 0 is broken down into maybe 6 different tasks, and phase 1, 6 or 7, each phase is broken down into several tasks. Yeah, I think that's the numeric I want to show you. So the K phase, 0 phase, 1, 2, 3. So each phase is broken down into several tasks. Earlier, you remember you break your project into 10 pieces, some of you 20, some of you 5. So in the same way, as I said, this work breakdown structure was established 30 years ago. At that time, they made a decision, this is how we're going to break each phase into. For example, we're going to break the K phase into 2 components, 0 phase into 6 or 7 components at level 5. Each component into, these are the several tasks, how we're going to break each phase into several tasks. And that's the numeric there. This is kind of shows you how the project code looks like at each phase. For example, at level 5, you would have 2 more digits. At level 5, you have the task is shown as a one number, 100, or a 100, or 270, or 3-digit code. At level 6, you're going to add 2 more digits to it. It's going to be 100, 05. At level 7, it's going to add 2 more digits. Level 8, it's going to further fragmentation of the task. To put it in another perspective, I break the phase 0 into 6 pieces. And again, I'm breaking the 0, 100 into several, you can break it into 6 or 7 pieces. And again, you can break each of those components into several lower level activities. We have a work plan standard guide, which is I think it's almost 500-page document that kind of tells you detail about how each of these tasks were broken into lower level activities. All right. I think in this slide, if you look at the SB45 component, 0, 1, 2, 3, and these are the things CTC monitors as in terms of the time and money. As a PM, you have the responsibility to make sure the data you put, which is the communication tool for now is the Prism, the data you update in is as accurate as possible. For KFS, they have a different funding. It is not SB45 component. What is SB45 component, right? So everything we do has to do with a federal regulation or the state regulation. So we don't do anything for fun, right? Unless they told us to do. So they want accountability for the money we spent on support components. So that's why the Prism is a system of records, and they monitor, as a PM, you monitor, track, and control 0, 1, 2, 3, how the money is spent and who charges to your project. KFS, as I said, they have different funding because it is before project is programmed. That's why it was not monitored by the PM. They have a different funding, different person who monitors the expenses for the KFS. Right, these are the different levels. For this slide, the reason I have this one is each lower level component has to be associated with the higher level. All right. This is the same information about the levels, but it should give you the entire picture. At the top, we have the department, and then if you say what is at level 1, you have the district, and then level 2, the shop. As we talked about, the 2 major fund types are shop and STIP, State Highway Operations Protections Program and State Transportation Improvement Program. Most of the projects we do fall under shop. It doesn't mean we don't have STIP. We do have STIP programs as well. So at level 3, the product is, this is how the code looks like at level 3. And the first 2 digits signifies the district, and after that it's an arbitrary number that is generated. I think the next 2 digits signifies the year that was created, the year that if its ID was generated. That is the next 2 digits, and after that it's an arbitrary number. So first 2 digits tells you which district the project belongs to. Next 2 digits tells you when was the EA generated, and then after that it's an arbitrary number. The year that EA was generated, that if its ID was generated, has no significance to when the project was began. So after that, at level 4, you'll tell which phase it is. At level 5, which task it is. At level 6, it's further broken down into 6, 7, and 8. We're going to do an exercise, then you get a clear. Okay. You're going to get a clear idea what it is. All right, we talked about the SB45 component, why we do, because of the SB45, we monitor the expenses that goes on 0, 1, 2, 3. So the one major difference I want you to understand is that in schedule, there are 2 things, task and milestone. Task is like taking a course. So it has its beginning and it has an end. So you work to get the grades, right? So whereas the milestone is a point of achievement. It's like getting a degree. So milestone is a byproduct of a task progression. As you make progress on your task, you would achieve those milestones. There are more details. I don't think we have enough time. I'm going to skip there. So the logic diagram, So we have the tasks, we have a project, we have the break the project into different tasks, that those tasks have to be connected to each other. There are several common ways how you connect a task with the succeeding task. So there, one is finish to start. You complete the one task and you begin the next task. And you start both the tasks at the same time, or both the tasks would finish at the same time. This is the rare scenario, but the first three are the common connections you would see in the network diagram. All right, float, lag, I'm going to skip this too. I don't think okay. This is the network diagram at level 5. We use it across most of the projects. As we said, KFS is broken down into 2 tasks. Wherever you see these bars, it has a start date and finish date. Wherever you see these diamonds, which are black diamonds and red diamonds, the red diamonds are mandatory milestones. The black diamonds are optional milestones. So the tasks are shown as the bars, and the diamonds reflect the milestones. Right, KFS has 2 tasks and 0 and maybe 4 different milestones: 0, 3, 6, 9, and 10. And when as you make the progress on task 150, you would achieve those milestones. Once the project PD is complete, you program the project. I'm going to go quickly on this. We have only 15 minutes, so phase 0 is broken down into at level 5. It was broken down into 2 design tasks, the ones in blue, and then 3 environmental tasks. And then you have the major milestones, I think milestone 15, 20, those are supposed to be here, they're not showing. But so into milestone 15, 20, those are signifies the beginning of the PID phase. And then sometimes you might have the milestone 120, sometimes may not. Milestone 200 signifies completion of the project report. So milestone 120, sometimes, let's say if you have a project that requires public outreach, you have to go to the local fire station or city hall or county hall, you have to present your project scope, you have to get a feedback from the community, then you're going to include a milestone 120 because the project has a major or minor impact to the community. If your project is a very simple project, such as a grind and pave, which is not going to impact the community, then you don't need to include milestone 120. You can directly have the milestone 200. You can complete the project report, and then that signifies the milestone 200. So in the PID process, the takeaway I want you to remember, there are 2 design tasks, 3 environmental tasks, and if your project requires a public outreach, you're going to have milestone 120. If it doesn't, you're going to have milestone 200. It's the same for the design tasks. So you start the design, and then you have all the purple ones are project management tasks, and then green ones are environmental. If your project has the permits, you're going to have the 205, 235, and if you have structures, you're going to have the 240 and 250, and all the other tasks. And the major milestones are 460. As a project manager, if you're able to deliver if you're able to get the project to achieve milestone 410, right of a certification, and milestone 460, that is a big achievement. That's milestone 460, the RTL of the project. Once you're able to get the right of certification and RTL, after that, it's a standard process that goes through headquarters and different functions. Once you RTL the project, you submit the documents to CTC, and then they'll give you the money for phase 3 and 4. That is the fund allocation, that's milestone 470. And once you have the money, you advertise the project, depending on the scope scale of the project, 1 million, 5 million, or 100 million, and that advertisement period varies. And then you're going to advertise the project, milestone 480. Once you advertise the project, depending on the contractor qualifications and the lowest bid, various other factors, you would award the contract to the appropriate contractor. Once the contract is awarded, the next step is milestone 500. So you would have, the contractor has typically 2 weeks or 15 days to submit all the required documents to say that he met the requirements for the contract. And then you review them, you approve those ones. That signifies the milestone 500, approving the contract. That means the contractor can start working on the, building the physical structure. This is right of way. I think I'm going to skip this. So once the contractors start working in the field inspection, group is going to monitor the progress of the project. That typically falls under task 270. And if you have structures work such as methacrylate or the AnyBridge work, typically you would have the task 280. I'm sorry, task 275. So anyhow, the point is each phase has its major tasks, and they would measure milestones. In the phase 3, the major milestone is milestone 600. As soon as the contractor completes the work, it's called milestone 600, and then he will be let off the hook. And after that, as a PM, you would make sure as-builts are done. If there are any claims, contract claims, you would resolve them in a timely manner. That's milestone 800. And after that, headquarters accounting group process the federal reimbursement for your project. That's milestone 800 to 900. As a PM, it's your responsibility to make sure you update these milestones as you project makes progression. All right. So these are all the major milestones at various phases. So at level 6, we saw at the top one is at the level 5, and then next one is at the level 6, and then these ones are at level 7. So if you have only the first 3 digits, it tells you which level 5. If you have 2 more digits, level 6, it's 2 more digits, level 7. So I don't know what the project management does. If that is the question you have, you can go to the WBS guide and see what they do. Okay, 100 is broken down into 3 different tasks. Okay, 105 is broken down into these many tasks. So these are all the activities that would fall into those categories. Right, this is the same, but for task 230 and 7. Right, schedule tips. Typically, most of the projects would have 9 to 12 months if it falls into the CEC classification, and there are times it could go more than 12 months if it's a complex project. Your PSND is 18 months. It is governed by the right-of-way requirements, and as I said, that's a typical timeline, but it depends on the project. How complex the project is, it could vary. All right, SHOP is a 4-year cycle. Every 2 years, you revise the SHOP booklet, but it's a SHOP is a 4-year cycle. I think STIP is a 5-year cycle, but if the project takes longer than 4 years to deliver, you have to program it as a long lead project. There's a different process to it. And after CTC approval of funds, you have 6 months to spend. Once the CTC gives you the money, within the 6 months, you have to charge to that particular phase of the project. Otherwise, you have to do proper documentation to get the time extension for the funds. And then another requirement is you have to spend the money within 36 months. If not, I think if you're not able to complete, exhaust the funding within 36 months, you have to do the proper documentation as well. And most of the times, the constraints are not having the permits within the time. And if you have the cultural studies or other tribal sites on your project, that would also delay your project to some extent. All right, before we go, I want you to click on the PID bank and this exercise. You said 5 minutes, but I don't know whether we can complete the exercise within 5 minutes or not. Okay. So this is what you're going to do. Click on this one, the PID bank. And then you're going to pick a project, any project from, for example, pick your district. Yeah, pick your district. I want you to do this simultaneously. We have very little time. I might need 10 more minutes. Yeah, because we want to do these exercises so that they. So pick your district and SHOP cycle, which SHOP cycle, PID cycle here. You can pick right now. I think we're in SHOP 2020. Oh, for some reason this is not sure. So you go to the, once you click on the link, it takes you to this page, PID bank. If you click on the R, it goes to asset management, otherwise it takes you to PID. The top one. Click on the top one. So after that, pick your district. Yeah.
This
Okay.
is for PIRS. It's from District 7.
Okay.
The first numbers have been updated. So just
Okay.
that doesn't include
Okay, I'll change that. Yeah, the PID link should work. That's the recent one. So pick your district and pick a shop cycle 2026, or if you don't like 2026, pick 2024. Our shop is every time our shop cycle is an even number. So we PID cycle, the more or less the same in this context. So once you pick a PID, yeah, just pick any PID that you like. Or if you want a other category, shop program category, you can also do the by bridges or something. So once you go there, I'm just picking this PID, random one. So we're going to go, typically the schedule table is located at the section 18 or 19. Go to the schedule table before the attachments, because most of our PID documents are 20-page documents, but even though they look like 200-page documents, the first 20 pages is the report. After that, it's predominantly the attachments. As I tell often, as a PM, this is the document you want to be well versed with, because you're telling the rest of the group based on this document what you're going to build. The first table we saw is the scope summary table. This tells, we already talked about this enough, but I want you to take the screenshot of the schedule table from the PID that you're picking up. Trying to find on this one. Yeah, just take a screenshot of this one and then maybe put it on a Word document or somewhere for the moment. I'll tell you what we're going to do with it. All right, everyone is done? Have some kind of a schedule table with you? Anyone needs help? Okay. Yeah, just take the screenshot of the schedule. Okay. Maybe try another one. Yeah. So not the PIPs, pick a PID or PAR. Right. I'm going to go a little quick and then well, we're going to, if we have the time, I want you to explore these dashboards. This kind of tells you, for example, this dashboard here. You guys seen this a couple of days ago, these dashboards? Okay, you already went. So this kind of helps you when you're developing the project schedule, just kind of give you a glimpse of based on the, yeah. Okay, we're not going to cover that. Okay, I want you to click on this class exercise link. It takes you to an Excel sheet. We're going to do a few exercises there. All right, here, this is the last thing we're going to do. And so you go to the My Tasks, and then you're going to type your name, and then My Daily Tasks. I know we are tight on the time. Just try to be as brief as you could be. As you type it in, we all should be able to see we are all using the same document. The problem is you all have to make sure type it in a different row. It's in the PPT. Let me show you here on the class exercise. If you click on that class exercise worksheet, okay, try to space it out. If you're all typing in at the top, we won't see. All right, the best way to do it is okay, let's say 1 to 10 is going to be this, 1 to 10 rows are going to be here, and then 10 to 20 and 10 rows each. We start from here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, something like that. Okay. Oh, just pick any PID document. Any from here? Yeah, any from there, from your district, right? So just pick any PID document. Well, all we're trying to do is kind of examine project schedule. Go to the schedule table. All right, yeah. This one, click on this one. No, just click somewhere outside. Yeah, just control. Yeah. Typical. So I don't think we're able to. We're going to be able to complete this, but I'll let you do this whenever you have time. I guess the point is, if you can complete these exercises, that should help you to some extent get an idea. So first one is you're going to talk about the general project description, and then another one is Caltrans project description. As I said, it works well. The first 10 rows are going to be taken by this table. The 10 to 20 rows are going to be taken by the second, and 20 to 30, you guys are going to take, if you space it out, so you don't type it in the same rows. So Caltrans, typically, if you want to initiate the project, this is the basic information you would give it to the accounting. Typically, you would provide them county route, post miles, and project description. Predominantly, it's a one-liner, whether you're going to build a guardrails or the bridge, rehabilitation, or the culverts, whatever that is. And each district has a different form. You just use the form that is designed by your district, but predominantly these are the details you would provide them. And this exercise I have here, I know we're tight on the time. And so each group would take 10 rows, and then they would identify which level the code belongs to. For example, if you look at the row number 2, it's by looking at it, you can tell it's a level 5. And then after that, level 6. After that, level 7. So as we said, each project, the entire work breakdown structure has almost, a project is broken down into 676 different tasks at level 8. But at each level, at level 5, we saw the project is broken down into 70 different tasks and milestones together. All right, I don't think we have time, but once you're done with the training, you kind of go through these exercises that kind of helps you to get some understanding. So ideally, if we have the time, I was going to say, copy the PID table you have here under the tab number 7, and then based on your PID, you're going to generate the schedule phase durations. It kind of tells you how do you know how much time it takes for each of these phases. The way you could tell is most of the PID documents takes 1 year duration. And PAD typically takes PAD typically takes 9 to 12 months, and PSND takes almost 18 months, and those things. So if we had enough time, we would have analyzed almost 30 different periods where you have, based on the schedule, you're able to plug in the durations in the years. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to go through any of these details. We don't have time, but yeah. And
Well, let's give Kishore a big hand here. I mean, there's a lot of good information in this. You know, I think you know, you have other training that
Yeah.
you do, right?
we
So
do have.
We can sign. What's that? Some. But you have like full exercises and things like
Yeah,
that.
I'm gonna show 5 more minutes.
What?
I'm gonna take 1 more minute.
Okay, well, I thought you said 5 more minutes.
So in terms of the scheduling thing, we show. I want you to practice. Those of you who have access to the Prism, scheduling with Gantt is very, I would say, effective use of your time, and so here, PPM Gantt is a very helpful tool and time efficient when you're setting up your project schedules. It's coming through. Yeah. So as we said, seen in the slides, when you're looking at this to verify whether the project schedule is right or wrong, these are 70 different tasks. You can, it's high, you're verifying almost 140 different dates. That's too much. If you're looking at the Gantt, you can tell if it doesn't follow the sequence, that means your project schedule is off. This one you can see after K phase 0 begins, after 0 ends phase 1, 2, and 3 as it goes. But if you're just trying to look at the schedule by itself, it's too many dates, it's going to be a little hazy on the eyes. So that's the user case scenario for this Gantt. And if you don't know, if you forgot what these different bars and diamonds mean, here is the thing that tells you what are those bars and diamonds. As we said, bars represent the tasks, diamonds represents the milestones. When you're setting up the project schedule, instead of typing the dates, you can simply move these bars just by holding them. You can extend, you can minimize, you can do the network diagram. If the network, most of the templates come with a typical network diagram. As a project manager, you can modify the network diagram as you wish. For example, K100-05. Right now it is connected, it has a predecessor of KP, and it also connects with, it also triggers milestone 10. You can unchain this, and if you want to connect this, all you have to do is just hold here and then connect it to the, okay, anyhow. So you will connect it, and then you would connect it to the milestone 10. It's very simple, and play with the Gantt, and it saves you a lot of time when you're setting up your project schedules. And I think I'm gonna leave it there.
Well, we did get a lot out of this. Let's again give Kishore a big hand.